Hi guys, it's really glad of me to be able to talk to you today again. This podcast, I want to try focus on the housing market or housing as a topic or concept in the contemporary society. Major economies like the United States, China, and the world by and large. I think whenever everybody thinks about housing, nowadays, if you're mature enough, kind of been renting for a few years yourself, you would probably have thought about the idea of buying a house. And if you have done any bit of research or effort at all, like I did not do too much, did a little bit on my part, but just enough to know that buying a house is hard. Why would buying a house be hard or difficult? Mm, it's really an interesting question in the at least in the two leading largest economies in the world today. It is very difficult to buy a house given which is equivalent to say uh, to say that their housing prices is skyrocketing. It's nowhere near affordable. And many of my American friends, they would be paying their house off uh, all the way until their retirement age by calculation in order to own a house. Because housing, so I'm writing right here in my hand is Wall Street Journal. And the only section that they do have about housing on Wall Street Journal is actually not normal housing at all. It's a special section called Mansion dedicated to the luxurious housing. So like uh, take this one item just for example, it starts at 8 million, an Oregon house with 1950s style diner. And then you have uh, um, another beachfront house, which was listed as 75 million in 2020 and 57.3 million paid by a celebrity in 2021. Then you have 53 million listing in 2023 again on the market. Then in 2024, it is down to 39 million. Obviously, in September 2024, it is only sold for 21 million, which is like less than 30% of its high price in 2020. This is how much the uh, price of a mansion scale can fluctuate. It's quite um, um, surprising to normal people, and it's quite jaw-dropping. I think this would be too much of a risky bet for anybody who's buying a house, and I think it doesn't represent the majority of home buyers in society, the middle income people. So we're only gonna use this example as extreme um, modeling tool for how much housing prices can fluctuate in our talk today. It just means that housing prices, when they fluctuate, you could save or lose the margin of its price, which is that is the size of your, let's say, my college tuition and your college tuition. So housing, despite the magnitude, which is probably the single biggest item per item in a person's lifetime of purchase, but still its price is subject to market fluctuation in any market economy. And that means no matter how big the price difference between high point and low point it can happen. It can happen, and definitely be wise. The lesson is to consider when you buy a house, or if you have an interval where when in which you want to buy a house, consider also uh, uh, kind of scanning about a opportune time point in that interval when you need a house. That could potentially save you a lot of money. Where do houses come from? So before, houses come from human-made structures. Literally, people, especially in the North America, as well as in Asia, houses are man-built. Some people literally use their hands to build their own house, especially in rural areas where the houses are wood structured. And in slightly modern settings and cities settings, both in Asia and America, houses like the one apartment that I'm living in, or the one you see in my background, they are built by companies. They are built by companies with those big infrastructure building tools. However, I think regardless of the method of building, it is still housing in terms of its supply side is still like any other product or service in our economy today. Make no mistake, the cost of any supplier of housing is much lower, definitely lower than their selling price, or even much lower in many cases. If particularly when there's a housing bubble in history that happened more than once, both in the American economy or in other major economies around the world. So, that have been said, behind those builders, the modern builders, it's capital, and it's people who have money, capitalists, such as, again, I'm quoting Wall Street Journal. This is a picture of the couple, Jared and Ivanka Trump, who were developing real estate in Europe. This may or may not be residential real estate, but again, this is where housing comes from. So as a result, the people who are trying to own a home through purchasing a house is roughly more than the existing housing supply, so to speak. As a result, the housing prices are always higher than people would like. Many people, such in me, myself included, will always be daydreaming, or wondering when can we actually afford to buy a house at all. I know Taylor Swift, even before she turned 30, she actually has bought a house full price. I don't think she even used a mortgage given her net worth, but for the majority of the American people and our citizens of all the world major economies, they simply cannot by themselves buy a house right away. That is when our financial systems come in, which invented mortgage. Mortgage is basically a loan in order for people to buy a house with. It is borrowed money, and in order for a loan to work, you have to pay the cost of loan. It doesn't just come free. You have to be able to pay to get that loan. And what you pay is basically the cost of the loan. And in most situations, that cost is expressed as interest. The money you pay to get a house, to buy a house, same thing like the money you pay to get the money you need to buy a car, is the interest part, the interest of a loan. And it is usually calculated according to a rate, which is called interest rate. So the higher the interest rate, the more costly you have for your loan, meaning the more you have to pay for your loan. But if the interest rate is lower, then you would have a smaller cost of borrowing that loan out. That means this is especially illustrative when you have the United States government recently changing the interest rate from the Federal Reserve as the source, and it will likely to channel through multiple markets, including the bond market, in order to finally reach a point where the reach that leverage point where the interest rate for home loans drop, big or small. And when they drop, the home buyers, potential home buyers, they would be able, for example, you and me would be able to, nowadays, it's usually via a screen of a smart device or computer, they would have a quote or interest rate from a loan that will be off a low offered to them by their lender of choice. In that case, there would probably be a loan figure as well as an interest rate, as well as how much they're gonna have to repay down the road. So all these figures would be able to showcase the effect of a interest rate decline or a interest rate lowering operation. Essentially, they would pay less a little bit. I heard like when the Federal Reserve is recently, if they lower it by 50 percentage points, it could potentially result in some savings when the home buyer go to buy a house. But still, the magnitude is never gonna be in terms at the viewpoint of home buyers, the magnitude is almost never going to be a point where people are satisfied or happy, actually, because it's literally you are being joking wise, you're being hijacked by some terrorists. Some would give you a little bit of juice on the way to the place of imprisonment. So the point is that the money being saved when you go buy a house now would probably not be that significant for you to feel super happy or happier than before, say 3 years ago or so. This is but basically the Finance 101 about buying a house. Why don't we just like I did, sometimes I ponder back to myself, why bother if it is so difficult and so hard? Why bother even buying a house? It has almost lead me into an anthropology of cultures, with a question, why bother even buying a house? So this is like about 10 years ago when I was well connected in a circle of entrepreneurs, in which many entrepreneurs said that they would not own a house or a car even for their entire life. Such a statement is very bold, and I think definitely one factor is that they foreseen themselves having always possessing a high flow of cash flow that they do not worry strategically about their income. Therefore, it doesn't seem to make too much sense to literally buy a house instead of keep paying rent, which would definitely be more economically shrewd. So again, not most people. Most people are never entrepreneurs. Most people are working class people who go to a certain company or working place to be employed by other people who are in charge, so to speak, of the bottom line. In this most people case, they regularly would need to plan their life financially, so to speak. Obviously, there's always a risk of layoff when the economy is not good. So it is more consciously visible to them that they need financial stability when their when their work or life usually could not fully guaranteeing a fully stable finance stream. Given this realization, they would try to economize. They would definitely, in terms of living, definitely would want to pay mortgage repayment rather than rent. Because after they pay mortgage repayments for no matter how many years, there would be one day when they could call it their own home with the equity 100% under their name. That is when that is after the loan, the mortgage is paid off. And instead, this is in sharp contrast to the option of renting, such as what I'm doing now. When I'm renting, I keep paying rent every month, except that I could pay this forever every month, but no matter how many months I pay and how long I pay, there never will come a day when I can say this place is mine, because it is not. It is only mine in my using right insofar as I pay the rent every month. Had I missed one payment, it could be within 30 days that I have to get out and would not be able to call it mine at all. So that is the huge difference between paying mortgage and paying rent. The same, which is a symbol of which is a symbol difference, which basically suggests the fundamental difference of owning and renting. That is why back a few years ago or a decade ago, there was a political slogan, political saying that American dream is now essentially home ownership. American dream is home ownership. Making it out in America, actually, or in any major modern economy right now, means owning a home, means being able to earn all the money needed to get a home owned under your name. This is kind of very crazy idea, basically bridging a political ideology with a economic aspiration. I think when I first heard of it, I thought to myself, that's crazy, because the American dream as a political concept and a social ideal is much more than just economics. However, in many people's mind, what they do want is a platform in which they could have the peace of mind to pursue their social ideal and their political ambition as to how they want to be in a society, in a country, how they want their country and society to be. So even though home ownership is not equivalent to political ideally American dream, it is still arguably a good foundation or a necessary foundation or a integral part of the American dream. Why? Because home ownership means there on this land there is a corner, a piece of unit, a corner that actually is under your name, that actually belongs to you. So when the American dream first began with Europeans trying to settle in this land, all they want essentially in the beginning was also to be able to have a foothold in here, call a certain amount of acres of land their own, both privately, both individually and collectively as a nation. So obviously right now with all the political parties trying hard to defend the border, the collective ownership of this land should not be too much of a problem. So obviously, everybody's mind individually is the issue of owning their own land and claiming their own American dream. That is why housing has become such a hot button topic when it represents a upgrade from renting, upgrade from temporary housing or non-ownership housing. And that is why both candidates are definitely both candidates are parties in actually at any point of history would definitely converge and debate each other on housing prices and housing crisis whenever that is the case during that election year. We will be talking more about that in historical context next time. And for now, we'll close with our discussion of the housing situation and market in the United States for now. All right, I'll see you guys next time.